my friends like I like my poems, unflinchingly honest. They speak the difficult truths, yet offer courage in the face of what you know you must hear. I've been provided revelations both through Ashlyn's poems and friendship. They hold up the mirror to show me I can no longer hide inside myself. With her bubbly personality and penchant for all things lovely, Hunter Green, and Kate Spade, one might not suspect the extent of her fierce nature, and yet this complexity of spirit is undeniable. The idea that under the surface, you never know what you would expect to find exemplifies Ashlyn's poems. In particular, this comes through in my favorite line from California. She says, "There's an ocean under this land." Reading Ashlyn's Thesis, I often find myself surprised by her poems and their range of subject matter and emotions, from the surreal to the heartbreaking. All the while, I am intimately linked. I see the room blooming red. I feel the losses and the sweet, subtle joys. Over the years, her poems have evolved in surprising and beautiful ways. She lets them take chances, and in turn, the poems challenge us to do the same. I am honored to have been asked to be a reader of her Thesis and to introduce her tonight. She is generous in words and spirit. What more can you ask for from a poet and a friend?
I'm not really sure how I'm expected to read after something like that. That was really beautiful, and I really appreciate it. Thank you to Denise for her lovely introduction, of course, and also thank you so much to my family and friends who encompass most of this room tonight. So I feel so loved, and I really, really appreciate your presence here. It makes me a little less nervous to do something like this, which is so personal. Thank you to David Wojon. If you wave so my family could see you, he's such an important part of my life and has been so integral to this process for me. Thank you to Greg Donovan, who unfortunately had an injury today, although he's all right. He's not able to be here. Thank you to Tarfia Fazula, who's also not able to be here, who was a reader for my thesis, and also, of course, to Denise as well. You guys have all given me amazing feedback, and I really appreciate it, and it's been an invaluable experience for me. My thesis is entitled Room Blooming Red, as Denise already alluded to, and I grew up going a lot to my grandparents' house on Monument Avenue, where I would, on Saturday mornings, eat pancakes and watch cartoons, and they had these amazing antique red vases in that room. And as it got later in the morning and the sun came through, the whole room would turn red, and it was so beautiful. And it's just such an amazing childhood memory of mine, and my thesis has a lot to do with childhood and place and family, so I thought that was a very appropriate title, which you will hear later. The first poem I'm going to read for you tonight is called Heavenly Bodies. Freezing this morning, dark sky lightening to blue. First rays of light draw in the spaces between fence posts and you and me. We're alive but daydreaming. Email. Aunt Mary fell out of her wheelchair last night, trying to make her way back home. While I was up coughing so hard I broke my rib. When I can sleep in our bed again, I'll visit her, stroke her hair, ask her about exercise class in between spurts of sleep, and feed her a meal I think she'll never finish. Hidden heater below my desk dries the air, a drop of blood from my nose to the keyboard. This is called Buongiorno. After that first morning in Florence, I returned daily to see the shrinking elderly couple sipping cafe lattes, reading Corriere dell'Alpi, skinny legs crossed, their tiny voices greeting in seasoned Italian swan song. My glass mug held up in cheers for Ben to capture a picture of them behind us. She smiled, winked at me, soft gray curls pinned gingerly about her face. Stockings every day, a flush of rouge, and he, hat, slacks, collared shirt, hand guiding her to their table. I imagine where they must live. Down the stone road, beyond that turquoise window ablaze with coral trim, where they eat mozzarella caprese and lick the aged balsamic that drips down their arms. Danus Plexippus. Damp North Carolina sky in July, homemade milkshakes, and I love you, the first words in the door. Bill and Margie stay hours on the porch, where I swing with them through summer. My toes clenching at cigarette burns on the plastic green grass carpet, little old blue hairs, and butterscotch, a clamoring of Sunday dinner. If you see a monarch, it's my great-grandmother. On her wings are family tree branches orange, yellow, and black. She's fragile, as I remember, but she moves freely. I planted Bullea to draw her close as she mostly hovers above me. Still, I catch a flash of orange. This poem is entitled California, and it begins with an epigraph from the movie Chinatown. Either you bring the water to LA or you bring LA to the water. There's an ocean under this land. I perched my chin atop the windowsill and waited for you to emerge from shadows. Crumpled brown leaves whisked by and circled into the whiteness. Your voice slipped in with the wind through faded, slanted blinds and crept up to warm my bare shoulders. The flooding does not cease the drought. We used to watch water release into aridity, power washing trash and planets in its way, drain and dry in an hour. When the parched land burst open with moisture, the beads landed upon our backs, warmed into rivulets on my thighs, and cried down your hairline, our life collaged into each prismatic droplet. You spun me in circles, geyser crashing upon us. We were the eye of this great storm. I was embarrassed, but forgot quickly as my head fell back with laughter. Rain absorbs into desert beneath my toes where you glow with pulse below the surface. Elegy for sunshine. I'll draw a circle of life, an O of exhaustion, traced around the base of my glass, forced as any explanation of why she's gone. Pressure of poise drained her smile. It was an accident. She was expecting to be saved. The phone will always ring without an answer. Sunbeams stuck behind blinds, goldenrod nightstand unbrightened by the day to lemon, her Catholic cup runneth empty. Smell, the scent linked most to emotion, lilies assail my nose and heart. Headlights of passing cars, bright flashes of imagined details in the hallway, her lovely hair draped across her still face. Phone spilled down the stairs, twinkling bangles, wind chimes cascading down her arms. And collected at the bottom of my lemonade drained tumbler, I imagine a smiling sugar profile of Maggie. Keepsake. This poem begins with an epigraph from Becky and Fritz Goldberg. Remembrance is a fire in a drawer. Behind the small rocking chair made for me by my great-grandfather, I hide, bandaging its wounded leg with my blanket. If rocked, it will topple. I will topple. Not wanting my mother to see, I tuck the broken bone in my pocket. Wispy seeds have fallen from the dandelion in my childhood scrapbook and left me wishless without breath. I gather the stems and scatter them out my window, holding one back from the breeze to place under the magnifying glass. It's a road on which I'm veering between shadows, waning and waxing. The windshield starburst, its cracks take me through the bathroom window where the stall reads, I've had a bad day for a couple years. And I understand but pretend not to when Juliana tells me she's moving to Indiana. I only know that's somewhere west of here. I hear her vomit and flush the toilet, stifling her sound. On the way back to class, I uproot my dandelion from her hair. Lake Norman. I'm sorry I missed the landscape that folds in half at the lake's edge, where trees mirror and birds dive at themselves. I would have touched my finger to the water and sent Morse code to you. Ripples would grow wide with the urgency of my message, you can't leave. I fear the pontoon would slice my plea and the wake would overtake the dock. I'd see you glide away, trying to catch the sunset. Elegy Elegy for West Franklin Street, 1987. This poem begins with an epigraph from the poet I, who never noticed me until the end of the day. July 4th games tied to your ankles balloons. Kids try to stop them until you hyperventilate and encircle you. Your mom breaks through with a paper bag you inflate with hot air, sweating, hair matted to your head. Last month they found you in your apartment, dead nearly a week, after a lengthy battle with bipolar disorder. At your service, all our parents, 20 years older now, were not supposed to bury our children. With your sister and brother in fall, the last time I saw you since 10 years old, tepid hug, empty eyes, I'm not sure you ever knew me. For the sake of the dead, the lily bulb sat buried in my guest bathtub full of mulch, star petals gazing from within, a kinesthetic tick-tock, the precipice of bursting into bloom. This next poem was inspired by a weekly newspaper that I used to read, and I wish if any of you remember the name of this that you would tell me, because it was so enjoyable. I actually think it's been out of print for quite some time now. But on the back page every week there was just this list of confessionals, and it was so funny and sad at the same time, but very inspirational, and a lot of poems, could have come out of this. And I just couldn't wait to read all the crazy things that people would post, such a variety of things. So this poem came about because of that. It's called Broken Summer Confessions. I can't remember the name of the free weekly, read during club sandwich and sweet tea lunch breaks at Becky's, mesmerizing me with locals admissions. I'd do anything to take it back, baby. Hourly job barely paid the rent, but the callers made it worthwhile. I walked in on my sister doing the dog, and Mom was watching. The smoke break gossip, I didn't ever smoke. Initiated with a cigarette raised between fingers. Fourth miscarriage, rest in peace, baby D. My boss closing the laptop as I walked in. I work full-time but meet clients at Embassy Suites on my lunch breaks. The apartment shared with strangers, only necessities, bed, computer, red lip gloss, Bud Light, and those wedged heels that made my calf muscles curve just right. No matter where I go, the music sounds better when I'm with you. One night I woke up with a roach crawling on me, gunshots in the alley. A neighbor's husband caught her screwing Cowboy, the homeless Gray Street fixture. Her disclosure, he rocked me like no one ever had. My confession, I couldn't stop watching. Those bullets could have come right through my window. I write a lot about my grandmother. We call her Mama, and she passed away in 2005. And she was quite an amazing woman. She actually attended Juilliard and Peabody School of Music. She's such an inspiration to me. I took piano lessons from her, and she taught them out of her home on Monument Avenue. So many of my poems are actually a tribute to her, and this is one of them. It's called Elegy and Diminuendo. She doesn't see me sneak into the studio, sifting her music through lower lenses, sunken off the house into the bogey bushes. Pendulum grounding, I hide under the piano at middle C, where every 30 seconds my grandmother turns the cornered pages and pumps the pedal. A quiet puff of air released an echo. My chest rises with each crescendo and doesn't fall until she's gone behind the fresh sheets on the laundry line, dogwood blooms corona her hair. Almost done, I promise. I recently attended a very interesting, unusual concert that my mother-in-law and father-in-law and my husband also participated in. And the composer, John Luther Adams, entitled it Enough Suet. And it was essentially meant to be about a moment in time in nature where all the sounds of instruments actually can mimic a lot of what's happening naturally. And it's meant to be something that you would attend and you can never go back to that same place without actually remembering that experience. The composer, we actually had the opportunity to have dinner with him after the concert, and he told us that he, in fact, composed this piece in shells in the sand, which I thought was really beautiful and amazing. And his wife, who doesn't actually know much about music and certainly can't read music, would come outside and he'd say, "What do you think? How does this look?" And she'd say, "I don't know about that. It doesn't look as pretty." So she didn't know what it meant. but she just wasn't sure how it looked, if that was the way, it didn't look that pretty to her, so he would change it. This poem is entitled Inuksawit, and it begins with an epigraph from the composer, John McAdams. For me, it began with birds. He awoke before the sun, excited to gather all the sea deposited in wavy lines upon the shore. Shells glistening white in the rising haze, seaweed the staff upon the sand. He composed the sound of morning, birds, waves accelerated then hushing, long surface tide, wind tunneling through conchs. Arrival of vacationers, children squealing delight, jet challenging the sound barrier. Competing music, dolphins nudging shore, until the sun lets up, a lone fisherman, surfers at dusk, treble and bass design, and all that remains are birds and sound. June 2005. After my grandmother died, her hair disturbed the guest room. Wrapped in hat boxes like gifts, swirled around the perimeter and into a bun, it began overtaking the sides, opening and slamming doors even in daylight. I tried sleeping in there several nights, but always ended on the couch. I knew the dark was watching me. No matter how wide my eyes opened, only blackness and guilt. Her furniture no longer a comfort. She should have been buried with her wedding band, engraved June 21st, 1947. But after her passing, it was given to me, wrapped in a pillbox, secured with medical tape. Monument 2. Stop and start of piano lessons, morning light through wispy curtains, setting the antique vases afire, the room blooming red. Bacon curing around snaps, scent of bathroom powder puffs, serenade from the studio, petals pressed, a duet that takes me back to dancing atop my grandfather's feet as his pipe tobacco sweetened the air. Alone on the couch, left arm on his rest, where he often fell asleep, I stare into the fireplace. In church, he stroked a chord on the organ, slightly slumped, pedals at mid-pump, stops pulled out, and everyone wanted to cry, but also to clap because no passing could be more perfect. My last poem is entitled Gillespie. Cigarette tip burns into the plush sofa, releasing circular puffs of smoke. Smudgy black eyelid wigs come over. Wine thins the blood that's rushing to her feet. In patent stilettos, she stamps a red lipstick kiss on his cheek. Crash of thunder, busy soundtrack to our scene. Rainbow on the wall draws my eye to her ring. I'd like to channel the stored wind in Gillespie's cheeks, use it for time travel. My martini sweats and slides towards my hand, pashmina slips off my shoulder, grays on the horizon, and the rainbow, the music, everything goes black. Thank you so much.